if I had an expression that looked like this, factor 18x cubed minus 9x squared minus 5x plus 2, using the rational zero theorem to factor this fully. Now, the only difference from the previous, the integral zero theorem, is that the a value here is not 1, right? The a value here is 18, meaning that this makes it complex. It would be like complex factoring from before. So now instead of x minus b being a factor, I have ax minus b being a factor of the polynomial term. B is a factor of the constant term p of x, which was the same as in the previous integral zero theorem. A now, because a is a value bigger than 1, is a factor of the leading coefficient of p of x, and that will make sense in 1 second here. And b over a is a 0 of p of x. So the way I would start doing this is the same way I did before. I would look at the ending value, the positive 2, the constant, and I would list all my factors of 2, which luckily this is a small number. So my factors of 2 are just positive and negative 1 and positive and negative 2, right? But it could be that I sub in p of 1, p of negative 1, p of 2, and p of negative 2. And what am I looking to get? Remember, is for the answer to be 0. If I end up getting a 0, then I know that that number that I subbed in is a factor. And then I can go on and solve the rest of the question, factoring the rest. These might not be answers, though. It might not be positive 1 and negative 1 and positive 1 and negative 2. So if this doesn't work, so I have to try this first. If these don't work, then I have to try factors of a. Then I need to try factors of a, which in this case would be 18. So let's say to change my color here, then I would need to look at 18 and list all my factors of 18. I may not get that far, and I'm hoping that I don't, but obviously I'm going to set this question up that I do go that far just to show you how to do it, right? So my factors of 18 are positive and negative 1, positive and negative 2. Does 3 work with 18 if I take 18 divided by 3? Positive and negative 3. What about 4, 5, 10, 15, 20? No, not 5. So I have 6, positive and negative 6. Positive and negative 9, 10, 11, 12, right? Just take 18 and divide by anything that you're trying to see if it would work. And if you get a whole number as an answer, and then we would have positive and negative 18, okay? Now this side must be in the form b over a. This is my a value here, right? This is my b value, let's say here. So 2 is the b value, factors of 2. So these are all my b values. So first, let's see, just to try it out, if we can get everything to work just on this side, which makes it easier, the same way as I did before. So I'm going to let, if I have room here, p of x be equal to my expression, 18x cubed minus 9x squared, take away 5x plus 2. And we'll try in order, positive 1. We'll try p of 1. So here again, if I subbed it in, I can go, I don't have to write down every step, right? 1 cubed would be 1. 1 times 18 would give me 18. takeaway, I always write down the takeaway because you can always change it to a plus after if it happens to change. So 1 squared is 1. 1 times -9 is -9, right? -5 times 1 would be -5 plus 2. And again, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do that. You can just start in order, doing 18 subtract 9 and get 9, 9 subtract 5 to get 4, and then 4 plus 2. Or you can take your positive numbers and get 20, for example, and then you can take your negative numbers and subtract 14. Either way, you should get 6, which is not 0. So that means that 1 is not a factor, or x minus 1 is not a factor, right? So let's go on with subbing in the next number here, -1. So if I sub in p at -1, I have -1 cubed, which would be -1 times 18, so -18. -1 squared is still +1, so that would be +1 times -9, -9. And then -5 times -1 would now change that to a +5 plus 2. So again, if you were to try that on your calculator, I'd have -27 plus 7. You can write that out. Though you don't have to. I want to see your final answer here as -20. And then you can say, therefore not a factor, or just a little sad face there saying, I didn't get 0, which is what I wanted to get, right? So let's keep going. Try p at 2. So p at 2. Then I would have here subbing in 2. So 2 cubed. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So I'd have 18 multiplied by 8, right? Subtract, again, I can change that to plus if I need to. It's a +2, so 2 squared is 4, so -9 times 4. And then -5 times 2 would be -10 plus 2, and put that all together, right? So 18 times 8 is 144, minus 36 minus 10 plus 2. So whether you do 146 minus 46, we get the answer of 100. Not 0. Well, we've got one more try here on kind of saying that it's easier. The easier side, where we're not dealing with a fraction, is p at -2 going to be the winner. P at -2. So be careful here because you're subbing in -2 cubed, right? So -2 cubed. So -2 times -2 is +4, but +4 times -2 is going to be -8, right? So now we have 18 multiplied by -8. -2 squared is still a +4. So -9 times a +4. But then I have -5 times -2. So that changes to +10. Here's where I have to go slow, because you could think you don't get 0, but it's so easy to mess up on the signs. So you want to make sure that you're double checking everything. And then here I would have -144 minus 36 plus 10 plus 2, or plus 12. And that is not going to be 0. I end up with minus 168. So none of this side works. None of the factors of b here are working, right? So I have to go over to all the factors of 18. So I have, again, +1 and -1 is 2 options there. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Did I miss 1, 2, 3, 6, 1, 2, 3? Yep, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 options here. But see how I have this, and starred here must be b divided by a. I don't just pick this side, I pick this side, these factors divided by these factors. So for example, 1 divided by 2, 1 divided by 3, 1 divided by 6, 1 divided by 9, 1 divided by 18, or 2 divided by 1, 2 divided by 2, 2 divided by 3, 2 divided by 6, 2 divided by 9, So there are many different possibilities, and I'm subbing in a fraction at this point. So if I were to start, for example, if I were to take the first number here as positive 1 and divide it by the first number here as positive 1, but 1 divided by 1 is 1, and I've already tried that. So same with 1 divided by negative 1, right? I've tried the negative 1 and positive 1, so those have been done. But if I stay with the b value of 1 here, what about 1 divided by the next number here, the next a value here, which would be 2? So positive 1 divided by 2 would be 1/2. We'll put that in. If that doesn't work, we'll try negative 1 divided by 2, which would be negative 1/2. If that doesn't work, we could go positive 1/3, negative 1/3, and so on. So let's try positive 1/2 and see what happens. Let me just clear this screen up so far. So if I sub in p at, now I'll rewrite my p of x here. So if I sub in, we said positive 1/2. So be careful. So let's write this out. 18 times 1/2, that's cubed, minus 9 times 1/2, that would be squared. Take away 5 multiplied by 1/2 plus 2. So that's 1 being cubed, 1 times 1 times 1, and that's also the 2, the denominator being cubed, 2 times 2 times 2. So that's 1/8, 1/8 times 18. So 18 multiplied by 1/8. Subtract 9 multiplied by 1/4. We can put that together right away. That'd be 5/1. So 5 times 1, 1 times 2 with the negative would be 5/2 plus 2, or 2/1 if you wanted to write it out that way. So here, if I take 18 divided by 8, now I can see that both of those numbers, if I were to cut these numbers in half, so let's get a different color here. Actually, let's use blue. So let's say half of 18 is 9 and half of 8 is 4, right? So then I would have 9/4 minus 9/4. So actually these entire fractions, all of this and all of this would cancel out. And I would be left with the negative 5/2 plus 2. Which I can go ahead and put 2/1, get a denominator of 2, right? Multiply this side by 2, multiply the top by 2. But if I know it's not going to be 0, I can stop at that point, right? If you know it's not going to be 0. So now let's type in p of negative 1/2, since that one didn't work. So sub in p of negative 1/2, okay, is going to be equal to 18 times negative 1/2 cubed minus 9 times negative 1/2 squared minus 5 times negative 1/2 plus 2. Okay, so again, we have to be very careful here. So there's only one negative. There's not a negative on the top or and the bottom, or else that would end up canceling and being a positive number. So we have the -1 times -1 times -1 and 2 times 2 times 2. So that would end up being a negative 1/8 minus 9. Now this would change positive, right? -1 times -1 is 1, and 2 squared is 4. This would end up being positive now, positive 5/2 plus 2. And then we could do the same thing as before. Half of 18 is 9, half of 8 is 4. So I would have 9 over 4 but I have the negative here multiplied. So negative 9 over 4 minus subtract 9 over 4 plus 5 over 2 plus 2 over 1. Now, in order to add and subtract these fractions, because I don't really know right now if this is going to be 0 or not, let's get an LCD of 4. Change everything to 4. So negative 9 over 4, negative 9 over 4. This is going to multiply by 2 on top, and multiply by 4, and multiply by 4 on top. So negative 9 subtract 9 would be negative 18 over 4. 10 plus 8, hold on, is positive 18 over 4. And that would give me 0. Yay, big smiley face there. Finally, we have it. So now we have to be careful because what is our factor? So we typed in, you would say that the negative 1/2 is your factor. But if we go back up to the beginning, I'll just, if you look at the, well here, I can move up for a second, but I'll move it back down because this, it's hard to see. But at the top here, you'll see B over A is a 0 of P of X. So it has to go in the order of B over A. So therefore, my, let's see here, negative 1/2. So this is A and this is B. And then if we go back up to the top, the way that we write out the factor is right here. AX minus B is a factor of the polynomial P of X. AX minus B. So if we wanted to rewrite that here so we can see it, AX minus B. So therefore A is 2. So therefore 2x minus B. So minus, what's the B value? The B value is negative, so it changes it to plus, be careful. So therefore 2x plus 1 is a factor. So that means part of my factored answer of this polynomial expression, right? The beginning of it would be, let's say 2x plus 1, and then I'm going to have other brackets here that are part of the factored answer, right? So to continue on, I'm going to use 2x plus 1, and I can do long division or synthetic division. It really is your preference. I find synthetic is easier. I feel like you might make less mistakes that way, but if you're good with long division, please feel free to do it that way. So I'm going to do synthetic here. Division. So we put our answer that we have, negative 1/2 out in front, remember? And then we put our kind of like a big L looking thing. And we put only the numerical answers here with spaces in between. So just the 18, then we want the negative 2, the negative 9, then we want the negative 5 with spaces, and then we want 2. So we have 18, negative 9, negative 5, and 2. And we bring down the first number over our line here. So we start with 18. Let's change our color. When 18 crosses the line, it means I'm going to multiply by my factor. I'm going to multiply by the multiplier out in front. So here it's 18 multiplied, just to show you, by negative 1/2. That's multiplied. So negative 18 over 2, which would end up being negative 9, right? So I'm not going to do that every time, but if you want to do that off to the side somewhere every time to make sure, you don't want these numbers to be incorrect or else everything else will be wrong from there forward, right? So just double check that. So I have 18 divided by 2, or negative 18 divided by 2 is going to be a negative 9. And then if we remember from before, anytime I do synthetic division, it actually is adding. So negative 9 plus negative 9 is actually negative 18. That negative 18 is going to come up and cross the line. So that negative 18 gets multiplied by negative 1/2. So negative and negative is positive. 18 divided by 2 is a positive 9 right now. And again, I add the values. So negative 5 plus 9 would give me a positive 4 underneath the line. That positive 4 is going to go ahead and cross that line, which means I multiply it by what's out in front. So it'd be negative 4 divided by 2. So a negative 2. I should have put this line a bit lower. adding more space, or when I wrote the numbers, I should have moved them up just for you guys to do the same. So I have 2 plus negative 2 is, awesome, my 0 remainder. That's what I was looking for. So you would think, okay, these are part of my factored answer. But don't forget that this was complex factoring where your A value was 18. So don't forget that you need to divide by the A value of your factor. So I need to divide by 2. So let's write that down. I need to divide by 2 because my factor's A value is 2. Okay, so you have to divide by, if you have a fraction, you have to divide by whatever the denominator is in your multiplier. So if that was negative 1/3 that worked, you would divide by 3. Okay, so if I divided by 2, 18 divided by 2 is now 9, negative 9, 2, and 0, right? So therefore, I've got part of my answer here. P of x equaling 18x cubed minus 9x squared, we're getting there, minus 5x plus 2. The factored answer, right, at the beginning is 2x, remember, plus 1. 2x plus 1. And the other part of my answer is, remember, this is your constant, this has your x, this has your x squared in order. So 9x squared minus 9x plus 2. And then again, especially if you have a trinomial here, A is not 1, so this is complex trinomial factoring. I have to check and see if I can go any further. You might not be able to, but I have to check and see. So I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply to A times C, so positive 18, and 2 numbers that add to negative 9. The easiest way is to start listing everything that multiplies to 18. 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times anything, 3 times 6. And I'm looking for, to get a positive answer of 18, but when I add, I get a negative. They both have to be negative. So is negative 1 and negative 18 going to add to give me negative 9? Negative 3 and negative 6 do, just to double check, right? Negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18, and negative 3 subtract 6 is negative 9. So then I will go back and write out my answer. But if I have negative 3 and negative 6, don't forget. So just to write that, let's say over here, negative 3 and negative 6. My original value here was not 1. It's complex. It was 9. When it's 9, I have to divide by A, right? Divide by that A value. So I have negative 3 over 9 and negative 6 over 9, and I need that to get that into lowest terms. I can't forget any of these things. So divide by 3, I get negative 1/3. Divide by 3, I get negative 2/3. And these finally will go into my answer. So my final answer is the 2x plus 1 that I found as my factor. And then I'm changing complex factoring and factoring that further into, remember, the denominator goes with your x. So 3x minus 1 and 3x minus 2. So if I have the expression 18x cubed minus 9x squared minus 5x plus 2 factored fully is 2x plus 1 multiplied by the binomial 3x minus 1 multiplied by 3x minus 2.